Academica Media. From Academica Media Studios in Miami, Florida, it's Big Ideas in Education, a weekly recap of inspiration and innovation in your schools.
Hello, education lovers. Welcome to this week's installment of Big Ideas in Education. I'm Ryan Kairalla from Doral College, joined by Dr. Sarah Boulos from Somerset Academy Schools. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Ryan. Hello, everyone.
Man, this is going to be a fun show. I am excited for our stories this week. I think the listeners and viewers are just going to fall in love with these really awesome two stories. Sarah, I can't talk. Why don't you start us off?
I'll do my best. So, Ryan, if I were to ask you what teenagers and senior citizens have in common, you might think not much. You might also think I'm setting you up for a grown-worthy dad joke, but for now I will spare you that. Well, in 2007, a town in North Boston decided to take a chance on these two seemingly disparate groups and build a high school and a senior center together. The result is Swampscott High School of Swampscott, Massachusetts. And in this incredible intergenerational center, seniors and students, although in separate buildings, have opportunities to collaborate together. According to their principal, last year, students interviewed some folks in the senior center about their experiences around race in America, which was awesome and really well done. Then they had an all-school assembly, the first one they did coming out of the pandemic, which brought everyone together in a fun way. The director of the senior center said, when the senior center launched the website, the students set up a booth where they had Chromebooks out and they were training seniors on how to access the website. They have appointments at least once a week where kids in the Tech Ninjas program volunteer to teach seniors how to work technology. And those are just a snippet of the ways students and seniors are interacting and helping each other in this intergenerational community. They have collaborated in a community garden. They offer career training and have provided both groups a chance to hone skills and build their self-confidence. And if you're still wondering what teenagers and senior citizens have in common, they both roll their eyes at millennials.
Hey!
Yeah. All joking aside, I really think this is such a cool idea. From a personal standpoint, I got a chance to volunteer at a nursing home when I was a high schooler, and it had a really tremendous impact on me. I think that there's a lot of benefit to this kind of collaboration, and there's a lot of research that actually supports collaborations between seniors and high schoolers. They have a lot that they can learn from each other, and it helps both groups develop social skills, empathy, and in addition, they also help each other learn a lot faster from each other than they would on their own. And if you've ever worked with teenagers, you know that, one person they will not listen to is their parent. But some people they might listen to is a grandparent.
Yeah. Man.
Now they do filter a lot of it out, but it's really interesting what magic can happen when we bring these groups together.
Magic is absolutely the right word for this. This is so cool to me. So a phrase that I've used on this show before, and I've used it in other educational settings, and I think I want to coin this phrase. I've referred to things in the past as a wheels on a suitcase idea, where the first time I walked through an airport and I saw somebody dragging a suitcase and it had wheels on it, and just having the easiest time getting their bag through the airport, I just thought to myself, that's such an obviously good idea. How did it take us so long to think of it? This is like the ultimate wheels on a suitcase idea. What a really cool idea. Just both of these populations would benefit so much from being around each other, and the different groups volunteering at the respective locations and both groups getting to benefit from each other's collective experience. I love it. We've seen an example of this on the show, not with high school students, but I believe it was with a pre-kindergarten.
I think there was. You're right.
It was a teacher of the year who taught at a pre-K that was co-located in a senior citizens nursing home. And the wonderful things that happened from those two generations getting together made that an obviously great idea. And I could see high school kids benefiting from being around that population as well.
Absolutely. And so I really thought what was cool about this particular case is the opportunities that they have for job training and for career training, specifically for students with with developmental disabilities and with developmental delays. So they actually have an extension program for students 18 years of age through 22 years of age, which I can't speak for Massachusetts, but at least in the state of Florida, students with an individualized education program can go to school past the age of 18 if they, need those classes. But a lot of times that they are put in separate classes, right? They're not always put into the general education classes, or they have their own kind of separate opportunities. But what this does is it infuses those courses in the senior center and gives them on-the-job training in a way that's less stigmatized than if they were to do it in the general education classroom, which I thought was a really unique way of putting that together. I thought it was really interesting, and I can't wait to learn more about this.
Does the article talk a little bit, Sarah, about some of the specific kind of interactions that we're seeing in terms of like when the senior citizens are on the high school campus? Are they tutoring? Are they just telling stories? I know you said that they, the students can interview the senior citizens
Right.
for like projects, things like that. I'd love to hear more about some of the examples of the interactions we're seeing between these two groups.
I think they talked about two different kinds of interactions. One are structured and one are obviously unstructured, right? So they have these structured interactions that are put into place where they have like the Black History Month experience that they did, which helped bring about the interviews about experiences with race in America. So they would have like a focusing goal for these structured activities and these structured interactions. So they would say like, okay, it's Black History Month. We're going to do something that brings the senior center and the high school together, and this is how we're going to structure it. But they also have opportunities for unstructured interactions, which they said take place mostly outdoors. So they have, they share facilities with a fitness center. They share a cafeteria, gym, library, I believe. I'm remembering a few things from the article, so please, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But they do share a lot of these facilities. So a lot of the interactions might happen, like, for example, there's a track that goes around the facility that's a mile. And students and seniors often meet on the track and have conversations, and that's really interesting. Or one of the challenges that they've had is in the parking lot, which they also share. And they've noticed that they used to have a problem with students taking the seniors' parking spaces, and those interactions in the parking lot have made the students much more empathic and realizing, hey, there's a reason why we shouldn't take their parking spaces. They're, several decades older than us and need to get to the parking spaces a little bit faster than we do, or need to be closer to the building. So that was really fun to read about. But yes, there are a lot of opportunities for both structured and unstructured interactions that get them working together and just building relationships organically.
And I think key to that organic building of relationships is what you spoke about with the common facilities. So when I envisioned this, when you first told me about it, I just sort of saw a school campus, and then they just, had a senior citizen center just right next to it. And so maybe they would interact, or the students would go from one building to another to do their school projects or whatever. But what you're saying is there are common shared facilities where these students are getting to have structured interactions with the folks in the senior citizen center. That's really, really great, because
I think a little bit of both, because they are in separate.
Sure. No, yeah, but there's some common, because there are some things that both of those populations need, right?
Correct.
Whether you are young or old, you need a place to work out. You need a library to read books in. And so why not make those things shared facilities to allow for some intergenerational interaction? I really love this.
I'm so excited to be able to share it with you. And I hope that we see opportunities like this in other places across the country. If you know of any, please share them. I know I'm jumping ahead to what we usually say at the end, but I'm excited to find out if they exist in other places. I'm sure they do. As you mentioned, we've seen some with younger children involved with opportunities like that. All right. So I know you're very excited to share your story. You said it was guaranteed to make me smile.
I love those kind of stories. I like to bring those kind of stories here on Big Ideas in Education. Sarah, you strike me as a avid education blog consumer. Like, you probably have your daily reading list of all the different education blogs. You probably got like the ones that have, some really good scholarly stuff in it because, being the scholar that you are, but you also like to have kind of like the more casual ones that, just have cute stories in them. And I think this one you can put in the latter pile, but I do want to make a blog recommendation for you and for our viewers and listeners this week. With all the challenges that educators have to overcome on a regular basis, it can be easy to be hard on yourself and to not see the great things, big and small, that you accomplish all the time. Sam Shaw, a high school math teacher in Brooklyn, has set out to make sure that he takes inventory of his own achievements in his blog, One Good Thing. In One Good Thing, Mr. Shaw provides a daily update on the wins happening in his classroom. Some of his daily entries recount some incredible moments, like when one of his students was selected for a prestigious math fellowship, while other entries chronicle smaller victories, like the time that he got to hold a baby, or how he was able to make his pre-calculus students smile by teaching them on Valentine's Day the formula for creating a heart on their graphing calculators. Each day, he writes about one thing that gave him a reason to smile in his classroom, and he gives his readers something to smile about in the process. And the tagline of his blog, Sarah, is a pretty important piece of education advice for all of us who work in this industry to remember. Quote, "Every day may not be good, but there is one good thing in every day." And for the folks who want to check this blog out and enjoy it as much as I have, you go to onegoodthingteach.wordpress.com. And of course, we'll put that link in the show description. I'm sure in the course of your professional development, Sarah, you've probably imparted similar advice to others to remind educators that when they are kind of inundated with all the difficulties that come with this line of work, to take inventory of the victories, even small ones, to keep you going and to keep you grounded.
Yes, but it is easier said than done, right? So I think it's interesting because when you said something about my daily blog reading, I thought, oh, there's no way I could do that every single day, right? Because the truth is, realistically, it is very difficult to get into a daily habit to do anything. Especially as an educator, you're so structured and you have such limited time with your students. You literally have every minute accounted for. And the fact that this educator has made it a point to document and share this every day, I think is really powerful. And it is a much larger endeavor, I bet, than people would realize, because it is not easy, one, to find the time to do that every single day, but two, there are some hard days. There are some hard days in this profession, and focusing on something positive that has happened actually, I believe, has some real medical and emotional psychological benefits. I believe that there are studies that show that focusing on, I believe, making a list of like 1 to 3 things that were a positive impact that day have lasting emotional benefits that you can see.
Things like gratitude journals.
Exactly. I'm thinking of some work that I have read, and I studied under Dr. Annie McKee, who wrote books like How to Be Happy at Work and things like that. And it's a huge part of your overall well-being and emotional well-being to find things that went well, like having a gratitude journal. Exactly. I think too of like in my own life, we try to, in my family, talk about, at the end of the day, what was something really great that happened today? What was your favorite part of the day? It was the best thing that happened. And that really puts a positive spin on everything that's happened. But it's critically important, I think, for educators, because it is so easy to just start over. We talk about sometimes when we, I forget what we said, I had a colleague of mine saying, some years it feels like copy paste, right? That's reality. Sometimes it's like, you feel like you're going through the motions. You feel like you just get up and do it again, copy paste, copy paste. And that's not really great. That's not a good thing for you. That's not a good thing for your students. It's not a great thing for any of us. And so to find something unique that happened that day that brought a smile or that made an impact on you, it can be tremendous. And I'm really excited. I think I need to put a little bit of that into my practice more often than I do.
Well, speaking to what you mentioned, Sarah, about the challenge it can be for educators to find time every day to read a blog, or in Mr. Shah's case, to find every time every day to write a blog.
Correct.
It is worth knowing that this particular blog, very short daily entries.
I could only imagine.
Like, it doesn't take a long time to write about how you taught students to make a heart in a graphing calculator. But I think there's a broader lesson in that, right? This doesn't, to the extent that you want to incorporate an exercise like this in your daily life as a teacher to kind of take inventory of your one victory every day, you don't have to go on at length about it. It can just be a couple sentences that you write in a gratitude journal, or just taking 5 minutes in the day to kind of unplug everything and just have quiet self-reflection about the victories that you are making happen and the positive impact that you're making in the lives of others. And even that very small investment, I suspect, which is further borne out by the evidence from some of these studies that we've been talking about, can have a huge impact, especially if you can make a habit of it.
Absolutely.
All right, viewers and listeners, we got a couple awesome stories for you this week, and we'd love to hear your perspective on them. Please tweet at us at Academica Media with the hashtag BigIdeasInEducation, and let us know what you think about the rise of intergenerational learning and finding your daily one good thing as an educator. It's been an absolute blast hanging out with y'all this week, and it's been a blast hanging out with you, Sarah.
Same to you, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.